And so the first component of being a leader in the low-carbon revolution is that domestic market. And it's not just true in offshore wind, it's true in electric cars, where we're trying to give the incentives for the electric car market here. But what we've learned, so what we've learned is that that is very, very important. But that is necessary but not sufficient. So what else do we need? The next thing you need is to provide the right incentives and support for companies to come here. I was just with Siemens, who are thinking about where they should invest for the future in terms of wind energy. And clearly they're thinking about ports and about all kinds of issues which will affect their decision-making. And the truth is that what we've learned, and in a way you've learned this partly from the financial crisis, but partly from the experience around low carbon, is that people used to say, well, look, the job of government isn't to pick winners. Now, of course, the job of government isn't to pick individual companies who are going to succeed or to try and substitute our judgment for the judgment of the private sector. So when people said to me last summer, why don't you take over Vestas? I'd say to them, look, to be honest, I don't think the best thing government does is running wind energy companies. That's a job for the private sector. But the truth is, we can make a huge difference to the decisions that companies make. And what's the respect in which we can do that? It's by, and this is a sort of, the term that economists use, but it's to make up for the market failures. What are the market failures? In wind, it's that actually this is quite a new technology, offshore wind, and you need government to provide the platforms for the research and development, the testing of the blades, all of those things. That's what we're doing by providing the funding. And if you like ports, making sure that Britain's ports are adequate for the low-carbon challenge in relation to wind. That's another thing that we can do. Take what you're doing in the Northeast, and actually the Northeast is doing incredibly exciting things as a low-carbon economic area around electric cars. I think you've got a test track for electric cars which is being built. I think it's the Nissan test track, but I think it's open access as a test track. Again, that's something that the private sector on its own might not do, but government can provide a helping hand. So the second thing that we need to do, as well as having the domestic market, is having the proper support from government. And let me just say about this, because I don't think the RDAs get proper credit for what they do. You can't ensure a balanced economic picture across the country from Whitehall. That is why we set up the regional development agencies. And I do think that One North East is a very, very outstanding example of the way in which you can become a powerhouse, a driver for your regional economy. And I think your role in that is very important. So the second thing we need is that proper support from government. And the third thing we need, frankly, is the people and the skills. And I want to acknowledge in this that I think we've got further to go to make sure that we can actually meet the demand. So, the task is, let's have the domestic market, because that's a necessary condition. Let's provide the right incentives, because then we're going to get the companies to locate here. But let's also make sure we have the people and the skills. And that was the other discussion I was having with Siemens, because they're saying, look, we want to be assured that we're going to have the people in engineering and other things that can meet the demand that we have. And we're going to be publishing some plans around the skills needs in low carbon in the next few weeks. And that is precisely to look at what is the likely demand and how are we going to meet that demand and what does government need to do. Now, there are exciting things happening around new qualifications, around apprenticeships in this area. There is more to be done around STEM skills throughout the education system, but all of those are going to be addressed in the low carbon skills strategy. So for me, this is a very exciting moment and very exciting opportunity, because I think we can not just talk about green jobs, but make them happen. We have to do these three things: have the domestic market, have government making the right decisions, and have the people. I just want to make one other point before I finish, though, which is about the wider issue of climate change. The big challenge we face in relation to climate change, frankly, is to take it out of the environmental box. Because if it remains in the environmental box, important as that is to me and lots of people in this room, you're not going to convince enough people about the need to act. And frankly, it's spent too long in the environmental box, because it's not just about the environment. Take the issue of our targets on renewable energy. If we meet our targets on renewable energy and our targets on energy efficiency, we will stabilise gas imports at their current levels for the rest of the decade. If we don't meet them, those targets? We won't. Now, that speaks to energy security in the UK, because 2/3 of the world's gas supplies are in Russia and the Middle East. Not 2/3 of our imports, but 2/3 of the world's supplies. So there is an energy security argument that we need to make. And fundamentally, and this is why this conference is so important, there is an economic argument that we need to make. Because people do want to know, what does the future of our economy look like? Of course, financial services is important, but what does it mean beyond that? How are we going to pay our way in the world? For me, this is fundamental to paying our way in the world and creating the jobs for the future. So thank you to everyone here for what you are doing to make this low-carbon revolution happen, to make green jobs happen. I think the challenge for all of us is not just to make these things happen, but frankly to paint a picture for people of what these jobs look like and where these jobs are going to come from. Because, as the Chancellor will have said to you earlier on, we all know that our economy has been through difficult times and is still going through difficult times in many places, including here in the Northeast. But there is an opportunity in areas like this to paint an optimistic picture of the future. I think we can do that, and I look forward to working with you to make it happen. Thank you very much.